Hello and welcome to our BlackSTEM PCC first event for Black Heritage Month here at Pasadena City College. This is a true collaboration of a number of PCC partners that have come together to provide this amazing panel to you and to have us be in a room together. It's been a while. So I'm going to start. I'm Marilyn Johnson I'm with ITS. I'm a computer tech support specialist here. I'm one of the co-coordinators of BlackSTEM PCC. I have my illustrious faculty lead, Professor Dave Smith, who is the other coordinator of this project. This project we've been working since August of 2020, and we are just excited to be here with you to present this wonderful group of people. But I'd like to start by thanking the Freeman Career Center. Their leader, Jacqueline Javier, is here supporting us. In addition to that, Jacqueline is the interim director of the Freeman Center at this time. In addition to that, she is a strong advocate of our work-based learning programs here. She is a strong supporter of entrepreneurships, internships, and facilitating leadership development for our students. Jacqueline received her bachelor's in psychology from UC Riverside and her master's from Cal Baptist University. The Freeman Center supports students in a lifelong process of career development by facilitating self-discovery, career enrichment, workforce readiness, and the career service team. A number of them are here today. Can I get the Freeman Center team to raise your hand so you folks know who to talk to? I see Derek back there, I see Antonio. Let's give them a hand for the work that they do here under the leadership of Ms. Javier. In addition to that, we have the Small Business Center working with us today with Don Yule, who literally put this project to us, gave us this project to talk to entrepreneurship with students. We in BlackSTEM PCC are focused on the transfer student. However, we know that all students need to learn about possibly kind of controlling their own environments and their own journeys, and entrepreneurship is one of the best ways to do that. We are so excited to be partnering. They are based out of the CEC, and Don has given me a brief. The Pasadena SBDC provides free workshops and one-on-one counseling for small businesses and entrepreneurs to help grow and create jobs, thus improving the local economy. Anyone with a small business or thinking about opening a small business may take advantage of these free resources. This is a special grant that, in conjunction with the federal government in the state of California, along with PCC, located. Don, raise your hand over there. He has been so instrumental with putting this project together. Now I'd like to introduce Elaine. Elaine comes to us from California State University, Los Angeles. She's in charge of the LEAVE program, and this is a program that focuses on bringing together opportunities of internships, but Elaine has a really interesting bio. So I have to share a bit of it with you because literally she knows all of these people that she placed on this panel. She identified who we'd be working with today, so I have to give her a little bit of praise here. Elaine Rodriguez is a serial entrepreneur with 17 years of experience in small business, education, and technology. She believes entrepreneurship and technology are the great disruptors to building accessible, equitable ecosystem. And most importantly, she is the director of the program at Cal State LA. She supports small businesses, tech startups, community projects at large, and her experience in leading community projects has served 5,000 plus clients, launched over 100 plus businesses, and supported more than 12,000 jobs and accessed more than $40 million in capital. Elaine serves on several advisory committees, even in supporting PCC. So let us start with this amazing panel that she has helped us put together for today. We are going to start with Celeste. Can I have you join us here? Celeste Shields is an operations and project management consultant under her own firm, Celestial Operations LLC. She has a background in projects and program management, strategic development, operations. Celeste helps companies and startups reach and exceed their goals with an eye of operational success and excellence. Next, we're going to go with Dr. Brantley Fulton. We're going to have him sit right next. Dr. Fulton is a chemist. I lie awake, yes, STEM. I lie awake at night thinking about material chemistry, the orientations of the molecules and how they fit together in what seems like perfect harmony. The way they light reflects off the objects or colors, the rainbows can explain all things through chemistry relationships. My technical title is chemist, but really, I'm an explorer looking for new ideas and innovation. Dr. Brantley. We have Ms. Crystal Jackson is going to be joining us. Crystal is a Southern California native, an accomplished entrepreneur who has worked with brands and companies like Pernod Ricard, R.J. Reynolds, Tobacco, Greenbird Distillery, Refinery 29, HBO, and HACLA. She graduated from Temple University with a concentration on marketing and achieved her certificate in women's entrepreneurship from Cornell. In 2014, she started Gala Unlimited, a promotional staffing agency managing over 2,000 events and activations. She works with gig workers and has over 200K in income opportunities. She's a spearheaded businesswoman, and she spearheaded Businessmen and Brandy, a Black men's career empowerment series benefiting nonprofits, 100 Black Men of LA. And last but not least, joining this amazing panel here, we are going to have John Kennard join us. John Kennard is actually the founder and CEO of Coffee Del Mundo, a virtually integrated specialty coffee company here in Los Angeles, and he also serves as a business coach for the Vermont Slauson Office of Economic Development and Field Development of Community Projects within the South Los Angeles area. Welcome. So glad to have each of you here. And I'm going to start here, Celeste, and I'll let you tell a little bit about your own stories. Each of you could take a moment to highlight the audience with who you think they should know.
Awesome. Well, my name is Celeste Shields. As Marilyn mentioned, thank you. Oh, can we hear okay?
Can you hear?
Should I come closer? Okay. There we are. Well, yes, I'm an operations and project management consultant. I love working with startups and founders and helping them bring their goals to fruition. I like to create steps and plans to create more efficient systems and processes, and have been doing this for almost 10 years now. But my actual journey to entrepreneurship, I wouldn't say I've known for a long time. For example, when I was in university, I absolutely never thought I would be a founder. My journey to entrepreneurship really stemmed from the pandemic. I had been working for a lot of different companies over the years and had really kept upskilling my skill set and didn't always see the results that I wanted to see. And when the pandemic happened and I was feeling like I needed more freedom, more flexibility, I thought to myself, well, could I just do all the things I've learned over the years for myself? Could I just be my own boss and kind of find my own clients and live that true dream that I had only really dreamed about? I've always connected with entrepreneurs and founders and was always in awe of their work, but never really saw myself in their shoes. So when I started asking myself all these questions of, can I do this? Is this possible? When the answers finally started being yes, is when I started putting myself out there, networking a bunch, meeting other entrepreneurs, creating a community where I could learn from them and also serve them the best I could. And when I took the leap and quit my full-time job, I put all my energy into my own company, and it's been really amazing. I think the journey looks different for every single person, so don't think that your journey is supposed to look like someone else's. I think that all of my experiences across the years, finishing university, I actually thought I wanted to be a therapist when I finished university because I studied psychology and human development. I mean, every single piece of experience that I had over the years, over the decade, really supported me in taking the leap to start this entrepreneur journey, and I couldn't be more grateful for taking the leap, because once you go through the fear, the best changes can happen. So that's a little bit about me.
Yes, good afternoon. A little bit about myself, and I would say my journey in entrepreneurship. It begins, actually, I was really young. I'll tell a kind of a funny story, but this really kind of got me excitement. There was a corner store on the way, like going to school, and this was like middle school at the time. And I would stop at the store on the way to school, and I would buy candy, and I would sell this candy during lunchtime. And what triggered it for me was that first day that I broke even. And I was like, I'm on to something here. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know how to describe what was happening. But what I was creating in that time, right, was kind of supply and demand. I bought the candy. I would mark it up 50% and then sell it during lunch. When I broke even, I felt happy because, A, I had made my money back and I had candy to eat myself. And so that was like teaching me something. I didn't know exactly what it was teaching me, but I knew that it was teaching me something. I went to Morehouse College for undergraduate. I'm very proud. I'm a very proud Morehouse man. Atlanta, Georgia was amazing time. While I was there, my first, I guess, kind of formal startup ended up being a T-shirt business with my roommate. We were kind of growing it, and the coolest thing happens. We get flagged by the university. Kind of like we're freshmen in college slinging T-shirts out of the dorm. We get this like cease and desist email, it basically says that you cannot use the logo, name, and branding of the university without the university's consent, like this is illegal. I email back, I say, okay, I understand that we can't do it this way. Show me the legal proceedings. So for about 2 years, we started an LLC. We were taking the train from, I don't know if you've ever been in Atlanta, we're taking the train from the West End to go meet with our banker up in Buckhead. We were following our LLC, for this company. We paid the money to become an official licensee of the Morehouse logo and paraphernalia. And continue, kind of selling the T-shirts at the time. This was another step, I would say, in entrepreneurship where, there are going to be doors, I felt like, that came against us where it's like, well, okay, show me the direct route. That led to further on, after Morehouse College, I went to the University of Oregon where I got my PhD. That's where we started Lamar IoT. As I was finishing up graduate school, I had been out in the workforce kind of as a benchtop chemist, and I had decided that it was something that I didn't want to do. I didn't see it as the vision or the future for myself. I had this entrepreneurial spirit. I wanted to build something. I wanted to make something and create it. And so connected actually with one of my Morehouse brothers, and we were able to start Lamar, which is a supply chain logistics company. We have our own tracking device, and I can probably talk more about it as the questions come out, but I will pass it along.
Thank you so much. You're such a Morehouse, I can tell. Morehouse? Oh, man, that immediately. Good morning and afternoon, everyone. We got to liven it up in here. I don't want it just to be like, I've done this. So as a entrepreneur, right, look, I'm going to be very honest. My entrepreneurial journey started out being broke, because I was living in the Bay Area. I was working as a territory manager for RJ Reynolds Tobacco at the time, and a girlfriend of mine was like, hey, I do promo modeling on the side, which was for, brand ambassadors who are in retail stores and doing samplings. She's like, you'd be great at it. And that's how I got my start. I needed money. I couldn't afford the Bay Area, so I was looking for, this is with a full-time job, company car, all that. And, I started doing that, and it was nice for some side money. And then, I moved back down to LA, and I'm gonna be very honest. Look, my journey was not. I was a party girl. I wanted to originally have a nightlife concierge service. So kind of how Vegas had the whole limos and table service and all that. I wanted to recreate that in LA, and that quickly changed. It was my car. I'm gonna be very. It looks like a professional services. You know what I mean? It did not look clean. It looked very ratchet. It was bad. So a friend of mine, I was promoting in a store, and he was like, he managed the store. He's like, you got to meet, this guy Seth. He owned, it's now called Infused Spirits, so infused vodka, and they have crack barrel or broken barrel whiskey. So at the time, he's like, you need to meet him, and that's really how it started turning into something. I was working with Seth and he was a new brand at the time. And, back in 2014 when I started, this is at the time I wasn't going after the Grey Goose and Patrons of the world. I was going after the craft brands. This is when the craft boom beverage industry was really a hit. I found the spark at the right time. And, he was like, hey, do you have some more girls? Do you have some more friends? We're starting to get big now. They started getting to stores. And that's how it grew. It really grew from me like, hey, you're cute. You want to help me do this? And just from there, I wish I had that. That's the thing with these. My journey has been so up and down everywhere. It really started again. It was going to be something else because I didn't want to do promos. I didn't want to do promotional marketing. And another liquor store owner was like, that's where the money is. I'm telling you, do it. And from there, through these 8 years, I've grown to 2,000 brand ambassadors in my database. And I also became a co-founder of a water company because during this time I started, as she mentioned, Businessmen and Brandy, which is very true to my heart. It's a Black men's empowerment event. And now I want to turn to an organization. And that's another thing with the journey is now I'm realizing as much as I love Gala, it's now time to pivot. And we could talk about that later, but the journey is the journey. So this is kind of how I got into it. And yeah, I became a co-founder of Aqua Equity Water. I left that. I still own my equity, but I left that in 2 years. So we are just living life right now. So now on, so we're just talking so much.
However, I need to point out that John Kennard has a Master's of Science in Marketing and Management.
Business management.
Business
yes,
management.
Absolutely. Yes. So thank you. So I'm originally from Nashville, Tennessee. And so that's kind of where my entrepreneurship journey started. Both of my parents were entrepreneurs. So my mom's an immigrant from Belize, and just growing up and seeing her work so hard and eventually open up her business. And then my dad, he's worked for FedEx since he was 18, but then he also had his side hustle that eventually turned into a business that was able to sustain us, and he still has it to this day. And I studied government. So I said, I see my parents working really hard. I don't think entrepreneurship is for me. I want to go be an attorney. I want to do something that I know people make a lot of good money consistently. So I went to undergrad, University of Tennessee, and studied government and public administration. Loved it, studied for the LSAT every summer. Like I was going to Harvard or Yale, like that was it. And then senior year, I got a tap on the shoulder, and God said, you're going to turn left right there. And that was to go to business school. And I'd never considered going into business. I saw my parents with their businesses, but it was just something different. So, I was able and fortunate to get into Wake Forest, where I studied my master's in business. And it just opened my eyes into the larger opportunities that it is to have a key skill and be able to structure it and organize it in a way to generate revenue that could take care of you and people that come way behind you. And so I finished grad school. I knew I was going to be an entrepreneur at that point. Didn't know in what. Packed up my car with what could fit, and I drove all the way from North Carolina to here. And the only person that had room in their home was my aunt who lived in Paris, California. And my first job out here was in LA. So I spent the first 3 months, driving 83 miles to work. Got a lot of good podcasts and books out the way. But eventually found a company and did really well as a sales manager in this insurance firm. And then I made enough money to, go start my own business. I knew I always wanted it, my own business. Didn't know what it was going to be, but I knew I loved to travel. So with the coffee business, I work directly with small farms around the world. I get to travel. I went to Turkey, El Salvador, Guatemala, Nicaragua, and I love to cook. So that's the roasting involved. I get to cook coffee all day. And then I loved coffee, and now I get a big discount. So that's kind of my entrepreneurship journey into the world of coffee, which if you asked me 10 years ago, what would I be doing in my life? It would have been an attorney. So everyone's path is just completely different. So thank you all for sharing.
Thank you. Wow. So, any one of you can jump in and answer this question. What does it mean to be an entrepreneur in your personal words?
I guess I could jump in. What it means to me is that I'm a firm believer in God, and I believe that we were all born in the image of our Creator. And so if you look at the world today, you see all of these beautiful creations. Like, look in the mirror, like, look at yourself. Like, this is amazing, all of these unique things. And so to me, entrepreneurship is the ability to hustle in the world and to create something that you love and you enjoy. And by you creating for yourself, you're in turn giving a gift to other people, because if you pursue excellence in whatever you do, no matter if it's making designs for plastic bottles, making, coffee, somebody is going to appreciate that and pursue that. So to me, entrepreneurship is all about finding the things that you love and enjoy in the world, and figuring out how to create revenue streams from that in a structured, scalable, manageable way.
I love that. I was just briefly add on, just saying, because I completely agree with everything you're saying, and finding your purpose, I think, is a big part of that. But the only thing I'll add for me, in my experience, has been freedom and flexibility. I will say that because entrepreneurship to me was an opportunity to not work for another person, to be my own boss, and to really see what's possible. It made me go a little bit more inward and ask myself, like, what is my purpose? What can I do that will support my growth, support me financially as well, of course. But I see entrepreneurship as this avenue for generational wealth, freedom, flexibility. And when you recognize that and you look inward, I think anyone can be an entrepreneur, and everyone belongs.
And just to kind of add on to what both of you said, especially in the spiritual aspect, you're being of service. You're doing the work. I will be very honest. When I first started my journey, it was very ego driven. I feel like everyone wants to be the entrepreneur, the boss. It's cool, this and that. What really humbled me was realizing the bigger purpose of what my business was doing. I don't say that $200,000. I say that because I just came up with that on Monday. I did the math. I was like, I've really wrote $200,000 worth of checks to people out here. This is important to me. These were side gigs. These are people who, needed to help. I mean, literally, a girl just texted me yesterday, like, I'm so grateful to Gala. You really helped me at times when I didn't have money and I can earn income, and I realized that being an entrepreneur, whatever it is, as much as we all want to do like impactful businesses, sometimes it's a risk. I think the risk factor is very important. Are you willing to put in those risks? Because I think being an entrepreneur, that is so undervalued. And I don't know where she went, but shout out to Elaine. She does amazing work being within Cal State LA. I think entrepreneurship, sometimes we look at that title, but really you can take risk and start initiatives within your own companies that you're already working in. So if you're willing to put in that work and do something that's bigger than you and be of service, then, we all have it within us.
Yeah, I would say I agree with what everyone said, and for me, I would say it's that leadership quality and aspect. To be an entrepreneur and be a successful one, I think you have to be somewhat of a trailblazer. You have to be seeing the pathway, seeing it for yourself, seeing it for your team. You have to be confident in it when those around you, their confidence wanes or fades. You have to be driven and committed to the mission. I think with those leadership qualities, I think all those other things, you learn from working, with a team. And I would say, the same thing when I started this company and was just finishing grad school. It was, it was like the razzle dazzle of being like, well, I'm the CEO or I'm the boss. And it's like, well, I'm Dr. Foot, and people already know that. It's like, I walk in the room now, and even funny, it's like, sometimes when I talk to investors, I'll shake their hand and go, I'm the janitor at Lamar, right? It's like, and part of it is true, because it's like, if you are the boss and a really good boss, you clean up the shit. Like, you're the one who's doing the work when nobody else is doing the work. You're doing it, in the dark, overtime, on the weekends. to make sure that the whole ship functions. I was actually just speaking with one of our investors a few days ago, and I was telling him that I feel such an honor and such a privilege to be able to lead and run this company. It's like it's not given to anybody. Startups and small businesses, they fail every day, and so to be in a position and to be perceived, as a leader of that, it's like it's an honor and it's a privilege to me. The more and more our company grows.
Thank you. What insights? I'm going to ask all of you to answer this question because each journey is different. So, what is the biggest myth or misconception about being an entrepreneur or being in an entrepreneurship type of position? I'll start with Celeste.
This one I would say, I'm curious what the folks on the panel also have to say, but I feel like the biggest myth sometimes is you need to have everything figured out before you get started. I had that kind of feeling for a bit as well, where I had to, you have to have a website already. You have to already know every single business plan, every single marketing. Having a plan is important. Don't get me wrong. Having a little bit of something is important, but I think as long as you have an idea, a rough plan, it doesn't have to be all figured out, but just some idea of who's your target audience, how are you going to market yourself, different things like that, or market your brand. Some confidence and a network. I really push for the network. I feel like building a network is almost more important than having your plan already figured out. Because if you can have a network of folks who are advocating for you, mentors, supporting you, I think that's actually sometimes more important than having a full fleshed out plan. So just going back to that myth and the misconception, some entrepreneurs may not get started because they think that everything has to be figured out before I can actually get started, and they never get to the point of actually launching their business. So I might just suggest, if you've got an idea and you've got some support, jump and just see what happens. Get started, because a big part of entrepreneurship is trial and error, as I'm sure some folks on the panel can maybe agree to. So that might be my answer.
I would say in this kind of as a scientist and being in, these innovative spaces, I would say one of the biggest myths is thinking that you have to have this holy grail, differentiating, over the top, nobody ever in human history has made this technology. I think I would say that's one of the biggest myths. What I always say and what I learned is that if you have an idea and you're the only person in the world that has this idea, it's probably a bad idea. If nobody else is thinking about this but you, it means it's not a scalable idea. You probably can't make a business from it. So I would say one of the things I would say that I think learn in our company, and one of the things that I always tell others is, if you could actually even try to replicate or reproduce what your competitors are doing, go out there and try to make the exact same thing as them, because you're going to find your differentiators and what makes you, unique and special along that journey. But thinking that you have to have some holy grail master idea that no one has ever heard of in human society ever, it's it's mostly impossible. And it's if it's a bad idea if you're the only person with the idea.
For me, I would say that, just because you are amazing at baking cookies does not mean you should go open a bakery. I'm going to be very honest, because you are no longer going to be a baker. You are going to be knowing the supply chain. You're going to be a manager with employee. Are you good with people? I think sometimes, especially now, we're having such a difficult time hiring because everyone wants to be an entrepreneur, and this whole you get freedom and you get money and all that. It takes a long time. And I'm not saying this to discourage. Maybe I'm sounding such a hater. I don't know. But I don't. It's interesting when you talked about your parents, and that's the thing is when you see, I was the opposite. It made you want to be ooh, that's a lot, because I thought I would, I come from my parents are very 9 to 5, Department of Water and Power, good retirement. And I was like, I'm opposite. I'm going to be the entrepreneur. And I'm like, please give me a good job. This is because it's, how are you paying for your health insurance? Are you saving up money? I think the myth is that it is just 0 to Zuckerberg, it is and as you know, you said earlier, everyone's path is different. There's so many different businesses, so it is not going to be very quickly, and it's going to be very expensive as well if you don't have a good solid plan. So I just say, take time to evaluate, because again, and what is your why for baking those cookies? Maybe you just like, baking cookies local and you do it as a hobby and it's fun for you, because when you become the owner in the business, it's no longer just for fun. You have a business to run now. So that's kind of my little myth.
Thank you. So for me, it would absolutely be the thought process that because you are the entrepreneur that you have to do everything alone. When I'm a serial entrepreneur, so this Coffee Del Mundo is probably like the third or fourth business that I started, but each time I've gotten so much better at really honing in on and understanding that concept and implementing it. At the end of the day, as long as you own 51% of your business, you get to make all the decisions. So that leaves 49% opportunities for you to go and find other like-minded people who have those same problems, who have that same energy and ideology and vision to create that solution. You don't have to do it all alone. And going back to what Celeste said, your network. I'm not from California. I networked my butt off my first 5 years here because I really wanted to understand the landscape, really wanted to understand the opportunities, the resources, and the things that I could bring to the table, and also find people that I could align with to create these solutions in the community. Because at the end of the day, an entrepreneur is just a substitute for the word solution finder. Mm-hmm. You are a solution finder. The difference is you don't have a big corporation making sure that you are insured with your insurance. You don't have a big corporation behind you as your insurance. It's all or nothing. But it makes it a lot better when you take a step back and say, okay, I don't need to own this whole thing. Who else could I align with to make this thing a reality and double the amount of knowledge and the energy that it takes to build this thing? So that would be, for me, the biggest misconception is just you don't have to do it all alone.
As a past entrepreneur myself, you have to be your accountant, you have to be your secretary, you have to be your receptionist, and you have to be the owner and president of your own company, right? Yes. So it is a lot of hard work, but the payoffs, I believe, as we can see, are amazing. So we're going to go with the next question. Culture is cash. Can you share how your lived experiences have helped you on the journey to become entrepreneurs?
I can take this one first. Absolutely. The reason why Coffee Del Mundo exists is because I got tired of experiencing all these coffee companies in America that were not designed for me. So as a Black and Latino man, I'm extremely lactose intolerant. And that's just as a culture, Blacks and Latinos are extremely lactose intolerant, and is really going back to the genetics and the understanding that cows originated in parts of South Asia and in Europe. And as Blacks and Latinos, we weren't even exposed to cows until colonialization. And even so, it was a wealthy man's thing to have milk and a cow, because you got to take care of it, you got to have the land. And so we weren't even exposed to it really until American education and that food pyramid with putting dairy into, the mills. And so for me, I've always struggled with that because it tears me up. It's just, I cannot do it. And so when I would go to these different coffee establishments all around America, I would see that, they didn't really have any substitutes, or the menu wasn't designed for me. And I was like, wait a minute, when I go visit a coffee farm in El Salvador, I see a total different experience than when I experience coffee here in America. And I'm like, wait a minute, when I go into coffee shops here, it's all Italian words, and it's all a Eurocentric presentation of coffee. And to me, I was like, wait a minute. And also the resources and the wealth. I'm seeing the people who grow this thing and pick this thing climbing up, going down 4 miles the side of a volcanic mountain, carrying coffee on their backs, living in poverty, barely able to afford meat. And then I get here in America and I see this dominated industry, Eurocentric industry, and it's not giving any credit and honor to those who actually grow it. So because of my cultural experience, I wanted to bring that to the table with Coffee Del Mundo. And that's also why it's coffee in English and Del Mundo in Spanish, because I wanted to lead with my culture first. I'm Black and Latino, and I want anyone who walks in through our doors to be able to identify and be able to relate with the experience that we provide. And so our entire menu is designed for the diets of people of color, meaning we don't have any dairy at all. So no matter where you come from, what kind of dietary restrictions you have, you don't have to only get to pick one or two things. You can come in and pick anything off our menu and enjoy it. So leading with my culture, with the whole problem, the solution, and also the execution of what we do to this day.
Beautiful. Yes. For me, I first started out in corporate world. So I worked for RJ Reynolds Tobacco. I worked for Target Corporation. I've worked for agencies. And that is one thing, sometimes as entrepreneur, customer service is extremely important. And there's a lot of unprofessional. I've seen it myself where I'm like, do you have any type of quality customer experience, in customer service? And I do credit my corporate experience for that. I credit my corporate experience for being able to write emails. I was very well versed on trade shows. That's how I really built my business. I'm very much an in-person type of person. This digital world, yes, it's easy, but I'm closing deals in person like that. I'm gift to gab. I'm the smile, the promo model. I can get that going, and that is one thing that I will say, and I do credit, and I'm grateful. As much as I would recommend people to go to work first. Go work first for a year, 2 year, use these companies to pay you for experience, and then from there you can, branch out in what feels right to you. Don't just be an entrepreneur to be one. There is so much value you can get from going to work. So that is one thing a lot of we're talking mega corporation, RJ Reynolds Tobacco. These are not a hair out of place, So it's something that I wanted to bring into my company as a professionalism where you knew that when you were hiring gala girls, it wasn't just the hot girls, it was the top quality professional women who were saleswomen, because to be a sales manager, I had to learn sales, and I learned that from my corporations. I'm good at sales in general. I get that from my dad, but I perfected that with the corporate money. So that's really where a lot of my experience came from, that I was able to bring into the professionalism and quality of my business.
Yes, I think on the topic of culture as cash, our company is named Lamar. So you know what you're getting. People know what they're getting when they, when I get on a Zoom call or when I walk through the door to meet with someone. It's very important to me that this company was named that way. It's kind of funny. It's like when we were actually first starting, people would kind of mention us like, that name inherently doesn't say anything about supply chain. And then I go, well, Ralph Lauren doesn't say anything about a pair of jeans either, right? The man made the name that made the brand. Now when you hear those words, Ralph Lauren, you identify it with clothing, but the name inherently itself doesn't mean anything. Mm-hmm. And so, it was important to create that brand, create that identity, I would say, and establish that at Lamar. And this is one of the things where I would say, for me, I like to think that the what is what gets you in the door, and that's kind of what starts you, but the why is why you stay. And when starting this company, it was in the beginning about the what, right? It's like, we want to make money, we want to build this company, hire people, et cetera. But just, if you go out there just with this sole purpose of wanting to make money, you're not going to be successful at doing just that. You have to have a why, I feel like, and a purpose that's deeper and greater than that. I'll tell a story about one of our engineers. He's a South Los Angeles native. He didn't get the opportunity to go to college. The doors at companies like Tesla, SpaceX, et cetera, they're going to close the door in his face. He loves 3D printing. It's like, how many people are running around South LA with this 3D printer that he brings in, all the time. And, just meeting him, a great personality, it's like, we'll take him, we'll hire him. We want him. He looks like me, identifies like me. I came here today in Jordans. He wears Jordans. It's like being able to create that culture of what is comfortable to us and what we identify with and who we are became so important, I think, to building a business that represents you, can represent your customers, and then ultimately revenue generating and creating that legacy. And so I would say for us, culture is at every turn. You can look at our team is made up of diverse individuals. We have Latin, Asian Americans, black, white, and it was important to me to want and to have all those ideas in the room because I wanted the diverse perspectives from everyone because I think that gives us the greatest outcomes.
Definitely. No, I definitely relate to what everyone said. And I really believe that your unique experience, and this is not something I came up with, I heard this from another panelist I remember years ago, and Beatriz Acevedo, I don't know if any folks know her, but she always said that your unique experience and perspective, excuse me, your unique experience and perspective is your superpower. Your experiences, you walk in the room and you're the only one there. I remember I used to walk in the room and be the only black woman in the room. I think, oh, do they want to hear from me? Should I speak up? Should I be silent? You know, but really my perspective is so different from every single other person in the room that I should want to speak up. That's actually a superpower of mine. And my experience, I mean, I didn't say this before, I grew up in LA. I went to Santa Monica College and then transferred to Cal State Long Beach. And that experience of knowing that I knew I had to be somewhere for a couple years and then transfer, that is an experience that I can take with me. That's grit, that's hard work. I was a waitress all through college, customer service, thinking well under pressure, all of these different experiences that maybe someone who has the typical 4-year background and goes into this job and has this experience at these different Fortune 500 companies. I know that my personal experience, though, has taught me so much and will help me get into every single next thing that I desire. So once I really leaned into that, knowing that your unique experience will only help you and won't hurt you. Once you really believe that, the possibilities to excel and just using your culture as your backbone, I think is the best thing anyone can do.
We've heard some reoccurring themes. You need to prepare. That joke about you need 6 months worth of money in the bank to survive as an entrepreneur is no joke. Because you got to pay your bills, because if nobody pays you, which can happen when you work for yourself, been there, done that, and you're like, car payments, rent, mortgage payments don't go away just because you own your own business.
Yes.
So, preparing, learning your craft, but I also see this communication thing going on, this theme about how you need to be able to communicate with your audience, finding your audience, networking. So we're going to wrap it up with our last question for the panelists, and then we're going to open it up for all of you to ask questions to them. So, in your journeys, tell me what is the lesson that you have learned most by what your day-to-day is. Give us an idea of that main thing you want to pull out the end of your day. Whether it's, I've accomplished and done this. I heard you talking about some investors coming in and you got some new money rolling into your shop. That's pretty exciting. But what's the win-win? Where do you guys all end? And we're going to start in the center here. We're going to, yes.
You know, and thank you, John, for saying one thing that's so important. It's very important for me is you don't have to do this alone. And for me, I'm reading a book right now that has been like, ego is the enemy. And that is something that I had to humble myself a lot. You know, again, coming into this entrepreneur space, I had to do everything. I couldn't let them see me sweat. I micromanage. It was, again, this is bigger than me. And there are people out there, and thank God again to Elaine for the LEAF program. I didn't get that until I did the LEAF program. I couldn't even let the intern schedule our meeting. And Alejandra was like, yeah, she can schedule the meeting. I was like, no, I'll do it. Like, ma'am, let go, because I will never be able, I was capping my success because I couldn't open up. I mean, there's, again, 51%, there's a whole 49%. I have 2 hands, 2 legs, and 1 brain. There's literally only so much I can physically do. So for me, my biggest thing is, at the end of the day, keep remembering that you are not in this alone, nor should you want to be. You have to have a greater purpose in you and bringing others involved in it. So that's my takeaway.
I would say I would piggyback off the the teamwork, the togetherness that it takes a whole, they say it takes a village to raise a child. I would say, a company is like a baby. It's like a child when you're starting it up. It's an infant, and it does require a lot resources. Shout out to Michael Couture, one of the co-founders at Lamar. I see him in the audience over there. The other thing I would say in business, and I would say, not to make decisions out of desperation or to always kind of think about the decision making. So whether it's investors, I got into somewhat of a heated conversation yesterday, with our attorneys, and these conversations, right? They come up, and it's like, you're in business with these people, week to week, month to month, year to year, and so keeping the relationships cordial is obviously important, but I think it's always good to take that step back. If you need a breather, if you need to go for a walk, if you need a night's, if an investor says, well, you have until 5 o'clock to give me X or whatever, and I'm throwing out a hypothetical here, or I'm not writing a check for this money, then to me it's like, well, that's not the right investor. If I need a nice rest of sleep to think on it and show up the next day to be my best self, and if you as an investor aren't going to give me that courtesy in this moment, how are you going to act 2 years, 3 years down the line, with the business? So I would definitely say those pauses and breaks, and taking time for yourself to reflect and think through the problems and the solutions is necessary and important, because in business you can go really fast and make mistakes, or say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing out of desperation. You could be strapped for cash, or it could be whatever. That sometimes I think leads to missteps.
And I'll follow up on that one, especially with what you were referring to as far as the pace. Every year, I kind of focus on 2 words that really guide how I feel at the end of the day, like whether I'm successful or not. And this year, my 2 words are pace and prosperity. A lot of times as an entrepreneur, you get so distracted by what everybody else is doing. Oh, this person's blowing up, or this person, they started their business at the same time, or now look at how successful they're doing. Or this coffee business, they started after, and now they're super successful. And so thinking of pace, it's your path is your path, and you really have to figure out how you can be content with your path. And your pace is not everybody else's pace. And living in here in Los Angeles, like, this is the 4th most difficult place to live in the world due to the cost of living, the expenses, and everything that LA has to offer. Now, at the same time, that also presents you with a unique opportunity, but understanding like your pace is your pace. Certain times of your life in building your business, you may have to be on an accelerated path, and other times you may need to take some days to really decompress and reassess some of those decisions and the direction that you're making. And then the follow-up is prosperity. Take a moment to enjoy your success. A lot of times, we as entrepreneurs, we're so wrapped up in our ultimate vision, we forget to appreciate and celebrate those small wins when we continue our path. And that's one of the big things for me this year. I really wanted to take time because I'm such an ambitious person. I'm like, okay, that's great. I just got that. I accomplished that, or I hit that goal. Okay, what's next? I'm already thinking about the next 5 years, right? But to just reground yourself, take a moment, because at the end of the day, it's difficult to do what we do. And to be on the stage with 3 other successful entrepreneurs whose businesses, are here, and some of them have multiple businesses, right? It's difficult to do this, but take a moment to celebrate and enjoy the prosperity that all of your hard work, your energy, and time has brought for you. So that's my 2 words, pace and prosperity.
Amazing. And I'll just close this out by agreeing with what everyone has said. Absolutely, such gems. But really, always coming back to your purpose and your why. I think that could really support you to continue going forward. It keeps you grounded, and also reminds you that you're deserving of this opportunity. So purpose and coming back to your why.
Now we're going to open it up to the audience. Anybody have any questions? Wow. I'll start here, then here, then here, if you don't mind.
Thank you for everyone for coming here today. You really inspire us. And Celeste, you're saying that to be an entrepreneur, you prefer that flexibility. I just am curious, how many hours are you guys putting in a week?
Good question. I think we all have different businesses, so it really does run the gamut. When I have more clients, I could easily be working 45 to 50 hours a week, if I'm being fully honest. But when I have a little bit more time, where I have less clients, only maybe 1 or 2 instead of 3 or 4, at the same time, I might be working for clients for maybe 20 hours a week. However, I'm working for my business 20 hours a week as well, because sometimes I have to make myself, my own business, my own client. So yeah, it really does vary, but I would say average for sure. I mean, when I can take a break, I try to. So if I'm a little bit slower, I take that as an advantage of literally making time for myself and saying, hey, I'm actually not working 50 hours a week this week, so let me take only 20 hours and go on that walk and then go grab coffee and do these things. But I think it changes a lot for me.
Everyone talks about networking, but what does good networking look like?
I would say, good networking is, it's the people around you. When I was at Morehouse College, and one of the things they instill in us is, your network is your net worth. Mm-hmm. So a good way to understand if you're networking good, I would say pull out your phone log, look at the last 20 not 20 missed calls, but the last 20 calls on your phone log. That's your network, right? Those are the people that you know probably the most intimately, right? It's like, that means that you had a phone conversation, with this person. So I would do that, use that as a base, then say, okay, well, how many, are there people that are in this, in this chain that can actually help me grow or build my business? Are there some that might just be grandma who, they're always great too, because grandma's always there for support when building a business. So that counts. And then I would say tapping into, academically, the school that you're at, the people around you. Issa Rae always had one of the best quotes that I really like, where when she was talking about the show Insecure and really building and, starting her company, she was saying that everybody is trying to get the meeting right with HBO, or is trying to get, directly to the top. Like, how can somebody get me a meeting there when the whole time it's like her network was the people around her, right? It's like, if you look at the first and the earliest producers, they were friends and people that she had met, right, on the same level. These people, they weren't working at HBO yet either. And so building that community and then growing it together with those people, allow them to elevate, to that level. So I would say that that's a starter.
Really just quick follow-ups to that is follow up. That's another thing when you're networking. Always follow up. Don't feel bad about it. People are busy. They forget. Follow up. That's so important. And you said something else that just made me, if it comes back to me, I'll say it. But I can't say that enough to folks. I always feel like my whole job is following up, but I see the most results when I follow up.
The Career Center does an amazing job with showing you folks what a good networking session looks like, how to participate in a networking session, and how to get those skill sets. Our Career Center, that's one of the reasons why they're partnering with us today, that opportunity. And I can honestly say that we offer you here at PCC a number of opportunities to network with each other, because there is something about said, that next job may come from somebody you know. Right. Someone picks up a phone call, sends you a text. It's all about communicating with those around you. You'd be surprised at the power that you have.
Just one thing I'll say also, sometimes it's really about quality and not quantity. Sometimes we go into big networking events. It's like, I have to talk to everyone. You're walking away with 20 business cards. Definitely to Celeste's point, follow up is so important. However, sometimes you go to events, and if you can just say, I want to make one really good contact in here, then you're good. It's not all about, or especially networking, because when you're looking at someone, it's like, yeah, but clearly you're not even engaging with that person. You're trying to find your next person and your next person. People feel that energy. That's why networking in person is so big for me. Be really engaged, really have good conversation with people instead of just, can I get your car? Okay, can I get no. Networking is really about building relationship. And building relationship takes time and it takes genuine interest. So, again, don't always feel like I have to have this huge network. There's small, like he said, your college, PCC is a network. Your nail salon maybe a network, whatever. There's so many different networks and things that you can, tune into, that it doesn't have to be this massive thing. It's really about the quality of it.
And a real hint, when you get those business cards, write a little note about the person so that when you respond back to them, they love that personal touch. Mm-hmm. Everybody needs you to remember, that they maybe have kids or they were going on vacation. Whatever that conversation is, write a little note on the back of that, and that's how you keep choice.
Hello. Really appreciate having you guys here today. I'm here with my son, who's a PCC student, and everything you were saying, I preach to him all the time. So you guys don't know this, but you made their dad look good today.
All right, Pops. There we go.
Because sometimes, you tell your children something, they won't listen to it. But I know he does. I'm not going to put that on him. But to have people your age say the same things, it makes a lot of sense. The other thing is I heard a lot about lifestyle. And I just want to share this because I've been an entrepreneur for a while. I'm an actor here in LA for 20 years. Had to retire because, children came into the play. But entrepreneurship, this is just a comment. It's a lifestyle. That's really what it is. Over the years, can you deal with it? And most people will not want that lifestyle. They say, nah, I don't want to do that. And so like you were saying, you try to show them and I'm going to do it. In 2 weeks, you don't hear back from them. You also mentioned something too about writing their names on the back children. That's another thing. Most of the young people in here are probably not at that point yet, but you guys it's knocking on your door probably. And so I had to give up part of entrepreneurship to have children. This is just my youngest son. I have 2 others that are in college. And so how do you guys, now this question might not work for them, but I just want to hear you talk about, if you do have children, how do you handle that? If you're thinking about having children, how do you handle that? Because it's going to happen. It happened to me, but I stuck with it, and now I'm placing it on them to continue what I'm doing. So I don't know, maybe that came across some kind of way.
Anybody got kids?
Personally, I don't have children, and it's funny you said that because actually, ironically, this week I was thinking about that. Of there is a level, and it always comes across wrong, but there is a level of life and freedom that you do have to give up, and not in a bad way to trade it. You have, a beautiful son, you have children, it's great, but that is one thing, that a personal decision. One, I'm not with someone yet, so I feel like that's also like, let me get a partner first. But I've been battling, I am at the age, I'm 34, it's starting to close up shop, and it's like, okay, do I really want children? Because I'd have to give up so much right now. I like I said, I'm in a whole business pivot. The serial entrepreneur. I have a couple other things I want to do. I'm personally not ready to bring a child into that because, I look at my parents, they were there for me, and even though they worked full time, going to all the games, and it's a lot of sacrifice. So personally, I don't have kids, and I don't really foresee that kind of coming, so.
You made me think about actually a couple of female founders who I know who do have kids, though, and from what I've heard from them, because I'm always like, y'all are super women. I don't know how you do it, but they have said that it's about balance, which is, I think, in general, even when you don't have kids, it's about balance, right? But it's about balance, and then also what some people have said on this panel is having a team. Being comfortable with placing a little bit more responsibility on other folks. Recruiting is so important when you are building a team as well. So it's definitely possible, but I think you have to find the balance. You have to be able to give up a little bit of your day-to-day to then make time for them as well.
And just to touch note on the other questions as well, for the how much time do I spend in my business, for the first year, it was every second that was given to me, okay? Right. Until I got it to the point where I was able to buy back my time. How do I do that? By making my business so profitable that I can then hire my first employee. Right. So now I don't have to ship out no more of them orders, print out all of them packing slips, take it to the post office. I got to buy back my time, $15 an hour. I can afford a college student to come in and take care of that responsibility. And then our business grew a little more. And then I could buy back some more of my time instead of working 80 hours a week. Now, today, I only work 40 hours a week on this business because I'm also taking that free time that I was able to purchase back with my coffee business and now going to build other revenue streams. And so I'm still always constantly doing the things that I love and figuring out how I can turn it into revenue streams, sustainable revenue streams. But it changes throughout the time. And then for networking, you know, you mentioned something very key, which is, to me, if I go into a room and I make one genuine connection, to me, that's worth way more than meeting everyone in the room and they at least know my name. Yeah. Because when that room is over, when you all leave this room today, who is going to be thinking about you? And who is, when they think of an opportunity, is your name going to come to mind? Not if you only spent 5 seconds with them and go on to the next person, but if you really had that intentional desire to connect with another human being, and then on accident, you all figured out you can make some business and money together, that's real networking. Mm-hmm. And so most of my network was always about, I just want to know who you are and how I could help you. I don't even want no help. I just want to figure out what resources and connections do I have that could make your life better. And then one day, if you're able to do the same, then that's going to be amazing. But that wasn't my intention.
That's a great point.
That's a very good point. I can honestly say there's been so much shared on this particular panel. But John, I have to follow up with you. Virtual integrated services, I believe, was vertically integrated.
Yes.
What are you speaking of when you talk about that?
So there's basically two ways you could build your company. You can do it horizontal or vertical. Vertical means that you own every part of the value chain. So for Coffee Del Mundo, what does that mean? It means that we work directly with the raw goods, so the farms, I go directly there, and then we import the raw goods, the coffee, and then we have a roaster, so we manufacture the product from raw good to finished product, and then we also have various distribution channels. So we do wholesale, we do retail, we do catering, we have online sales. And so we are vertically integrated because as you go up the value chain from the raw good to the final consumer, we own every part of that. And so when I go back and think about pace and comparing my business, you know, to other coffee shops, it takes a longer time to build a vertically integrated company. If you want to just do a horizontal, which would look like, okay, we have a coffee shop and we just go buy the beans and we just sell it to the consumers, and now we have 3 locations, 7 locations, 10 locations doing the same thing, that's horizontally integrated. So there's different ways you could build your company. We chose vertically because I'm all about quality and preserving the culture and the heritage of those farmers.
Really quickly, I'm going to add to just what you just said. If you go into the grocery store, if you see the grocery store, let's say Walmart, if you see their brand called Great Brand,
Great value, yeah.
Great Value,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's integrated. That means, and the same thing with Costco. If you see Kirkland, that means from the top to the bottom,
After the fact is like, oh yeah, by the way, I did this and it wasn't good. I'm like, why did you not talk to us before? You know, I think everyone needs to be brought in on decisions, especially when, I mean, maybe some hierarchy matters, you know, but I think it's very important for your team to be involved in every step of the process and actually entrusting your employees instead of trying to micromanage. So, you know, have faith and trust and coach.
I believe the question he was asking, after the recent events that we've seen, how do you seem to want to see change? How do you want to see change within the workplace? And what would be your steps to do it? I believe that's right.
Yeah, I think it's difficult without getting into the systematic oppression in the U.S. It's like, that's a college course in itself. You know, one of the things I would say, you know, for instance, I sit on the Crenshaw YMCA board, and you know, one of the things that I learned, and I try to really kind of use this as a model for my life or how I kind of navigate to some degree is, you know, it's like I could go in there with those students and those kids every day in a suit and say, you know, I'm Dr. Fulton. And for me, that would seem like a level that actually wouldn't reach them, where I think I learned this over time, that it's more important, right, for me to go in, you know, dressed like this, or, you know, more who I am. And I now am able to identify with them. They now have a respect for me. They have a trust. And at the same time, while I'm there with them, I can instill those gems of, this is how you get a PhD. This is how you do this. And so over time, they can now look and say, hey, I can actually do this, because I remember him telling me this, and he had Jordans on, and I wear Jordans. And so I can actually see the translation to this. But if you go in, I think, with a certain identity, you know, if I walked in with a shirt and a tie, they might look at me and say, well, I can never be that because I don't wear a shirt and a tie. And that's a layer that's away from what I understand or where I am. And so, you know, I think in general, I think it's like people need to have just generally more respect for people. That's also just kind of an American thing that I sometimes think is an issue here in our country versus other places. But I think that's kind of some of the perspective or some of the things that I at least feel I have tried to institute, especially with younger students.
Yeah, and also as an entrepreneur, you know, you have the opportunity to be the change. So for us, when I was starting to pitch and open my business, and people would say, you know, oh, where are you going to open up at? And I'll say, right there in Florence and Vermont. And I would get people to look at me like I'm crazy. And you know, there's many ways you could do something, but I believe solutions and the change is going to come through and from our community. And a lot of times what I see founders do is they make an amazing product from their community, and then as soon as the big companies and the checks start rolling in, they're gone. As if there's like a disease from the community. Now they're in all the major retailers that are, again, not in that community that they started. And that's the fast path to money. Do I call that success? To me personally, no, because you just left your community. So to me, it's staying in the community and creating the infrastructure for that change to be displayed and to be executed in the community. And so, you know, as I'm thinking about expanding and scaling my business, one of the number one things that I think about is I'm not going to find another location outside of my community until I can find one that can be sustained in my community. And so that's our commitment. And as an entrepreneur, you have the ability to make those types of decisions.
The gentleman here.
Hi. Oh. Is my work?
Yeah.
Hey, test.
There
Can
we
you
go.
hear me? Okay. Okay. So I have a question for all the panelists. And since you mentioned about like business entrepreneurship, and then my question is like, how does like graphic designer play in the role of the process of entrepreneurship? Thank you.
I think it's a very important role. You know, being within a company, like helping an entrepreneur, or even being a graphic designer entrepreneur yourself, which, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it is so in demand right now because every business really needs that. So really, I would operate yourself as someone who's owned an agency, you know. As an agency, there's a lot of things, I mean, you can do yourself. Some of them you can export and delegate to other people. But, I mean, graphic design, I mean, it's just like freelance. You're your own business. So create a portfolio, even being on things like Fiverr or Upwork. But, yeah, I would create a graphic, and I wish I knew his name. It's on YouTube. He has a great channel, and he talks about graphic designers who, you know, becoming agencies within themselves. So, yeah, absolutely. I mean, that is something that you can market your business, especially to small entrepreneurs, and, you know, the branding. Is it like just graphic design? I would really put together kind of like total brand packaging, you know, anything from, I mean, logos down to, you know, the brand story and everything that they would really need. So, yeah, I think it's something that's not going away. I mean, every company needs, I mean, even targeting colleges and creating the graphics for certain events. I mean, that's another thing. Find a niche. You know, I think people are like, I'm a graphic designer. If you find, I'm a graphic designer for, you know, coffee businesses or, you know, for universities, I mean, when you kind of find a niche group, it's just, and especially when you've created it for other people and they can see a portfolio of that, that's my biggest thing is be it for a niche.
And this is essentially, that's my type of entrepreneurship is I am the service. It's not like a lot of folks on the panel have a product and that's the service that they're giving to their target audience, but my services are my product. And I essentially just used my previous skills across a lot of different job experiences, having people pay me to get experience, essentially. And a big part of my clients that I've gotten, again, comes back to network. So when you find that niche, for sure, like definitely, because mine was that I saw a need from startups that they need could need some freelance operations support, and the operations umbrella is so big. But I knew that the startups and small mid-sized businesses would likely prefer to pay me over like a full-time employee. So it's like I found that niche of like where I want to go, and then the network that I've been able to build over the years has been all of my clients that I've gotten so far. So those would be the two: network and niche.
Hello, my name is Jordan. I just want to thank you guys for coming today. Everything you guys are saying, I'm really trying to like soak in. But my question is like, what advice would you give to someone like me, a college student, an athlete, who wants to take the next step forward into being an entrepreneur? Like instead of saying, start doing, and to really just evolve. So,
What you trying to build? What's your business?
oh no, well I don't like. I'm just trying to take the next over into like pursuing entrepreneurship, not exactly like a specific business, but like to be involved, if that makes sense.
Okay, yeah, it does. What problem are you trying to solve?
Well, I'm not sure, honestly.
Figure that out.
Okay.
Figure that out first. Figure out what's the problem you want to solve, and then create a list of all the people who can help you solve that problem, and then just start calling them and talking to them like, hey, are you interested in helping me solve this problem? If not, what are some ways you believe this problem could be solved? And get your research done and then just start doing it. But at the end of the day, the most important thing is figuring out and identifying and sticking to what is the problem that you're solving.
And on that, we actually have a really practical solution. You can join us on the next workshop because you just asked about that. So before we jump into that, I just want to say thank you guys all for coming. My name's Elaine Rodriguez. I am a proud PCC alum. I was here for 3 years before I transferred to Cal State LA. And this is by far like one of my favorite things to do. Again, question is like, how do you come up with what are you selling, or like how do you want to, venture on and into entrepreneurship? The problem that I saw was when I was here, there was no panels like this. That's the problem that I saw, right? I went onto the world and I was like, there's all these other schools having these really cool like guest speakers and people that look like them talking about cool things they're doing. How come I didn't have that when I was at PCC? So I came back to PCC and I was like, how come you guys don't have that? Can we do that? Can we bring panelists that looks like us, that talk about the journey of being here, right? What happens after you come to PCC, you transfer somewhere, or you go get a job, like what happens next, right? That is entrepreneurship, just figuring out what's next. And so with that, I want to, thank all of our panelists for joining. They're all out there in the world doing really cool things. Best way, somebody talked about networking earlier. Pull out your LinkedIn. Pull out your Instagram. Follow them on Instagram, on LinkedIn, on your preferred social media channel, and see what they're doing. Best way to like network without actually having to talk to them right away, so that you have something to talk to them when you do meet them in person. That is my go-to tip. I stalk people on the internet, and then I meet them in person. I'm like, so I saw you're doing this thing.
Yes.
Let's talk about that, right? So that way you have something interesting to talk to them about. But also, I just want to say, this is such a great campus and great space to really, learn more things about yourself. Take your journey and, in school to learn about yourself. Cool, you're going to learn something that is going to be practical, and hopefully you're going to go make some money off of it. But more than anything, college is about you. It's about what you're learning about yourself, what you're good at, what you're not good at, what you want to do, what you don't like to do. There's a lot of things I don't like to do. And then I find out the 49% people that can help me do them.
That's right.
So, that's really what college is about. Take advantage of all the resources, right? You have people like Marilyn, people like Jackie at the Freeman Center. There's all these campus activities and, different access points. Take advantage of them. Most of them are going to give you lunch. What's the worst that can happen? You have a really nice meal and you hear some cool people talk, right? Saying yes to things is by far the hardest thing. Leaving campus is easy. Staying on campus and doing things here on campus is the hard part. So I just want to congratulate you for sticking it out and listening to our panelists, because their stories are amazing, and there's also just a lot of really great knowledge. I also want to refer you guys to, there's another career panel, again, and celebrating Black Heritage Month. It's going to be on 2/22. There's some flyers posted around. You guys can check out all of the information, and I know Jackie will be sending out a reminder as well so that you guys have access to that. We also have, we started this last semester, we have an entrepreneurship workshop series, right? And so the question is like, how do we get started? How do we even, is this even a thing for me? Should I be thinking about, you know, a different field and whatnot, right? Or how do you utilize your major to work in entrepreneurship or to be an entrepreneur, right? You can also work in an organization and like pitch something new. So we have a five-part workshop series this spring. These are all remote, they're online, they're on Zoom. So literally you can join us from, you know, from your house, from your bedroom, and your, you know, in your kitchen as you're cooking, whatever, right? There's no pressure to, you know, just really be there present, but you can be there listening to what, you know, the speakers have to say. Last semester we had, I think, over 400 students or so sign up for the series across the six-part series. Again, all of the speakers have similar journeys to the ones that you guys have had, and so, you know, they have a lot of things to share with you. So if you guys want to learn more about the Entrepreneurship Workshop Series, you guys can find, I have a flyer, but we'll also be sending you guys information. And again, I just want to say thank you to Marilyn for hosting us today, to the SVDC for putting this workshop together, the Freeman Center for bringing this to you guys, and then of course to our panelists for all the great insights. And I learned so much more about you guys that I didn't know today. So thank you guys for joining us. Thank you, everybody.
And they have all our contact info, right, on the flyer? Perfect.
Yeah.
Yes. So reach out. They're here. They're offering.
He's the future Zuckerberg over here. That's right.